Good morning. Welcome to my bunker. Voices from my bunker 2020. Today I'm going to introduce you to someone I've never met, but after speaking with her, I wish she lived next door. Not that we'd be able to visit, because we are of like mind in that way, but because she seems the total opposite of me in ways, and yet I felt a real kinship in terms of how she views the world. Her name is Joan. She's the mother of my sewing teacher, who was very patient and proved her educational credentials by having this student at 70. I guess I was 73 when I first went and sat in her class and found threading a bobbin the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest. But at any rate, I think you're going to enjoy Joan. I know that I really appreciated in ways that I hadn't before that my ability to sit for periods of time really was a big plus in dealing with the initial months of this COVID, as well as what I see are many more months. I can sit for long stretches of time. I can stream things on my iPad or computer and just watch mindless things, as well as thoughtful things and serious things. But in other words, you give me a patch of time, I can fill it while being in the house. And Joan was the polar opposite of this. This was someone who doesn't sit for long periods. She's always up to something. She's going out, she's meeting people, she's going to the Y. She's just on the move. And so she's younger than I am, 74, lived a long life and filled with connections all around her, but found herself isolated in ways that she had not been ever before in her life. And she got through it with a degree of grace and humor that I totally admire, because I'm telling you, may I bear witness, you take away my ability to sit in slothful and attentive positions for God knows how many hours a day, and I'm not sure I'm able to function after 5 months. So I really learned something today, and I'm hoping you will too. So I'd like you to meet Joan. She's a widow and lives in Rochester, New York. And I started the interview by asking her when she had first heard about COVID. Not necessarily that she was going to have to be quarantined, but when she first started hearing about it. So meet Joan.
Yeah, COVID. Remember hearing about it last fall, but
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
didn't really think that much about it. I did research it. I can remember because I always go on. I'm a registered nurse, retired.
Okay. Right.
So any medical stuff, I always go on right away and research. I look everything up. So I did research it a little bit, and I just figured it was going to stay there.
Yep.
I wish it had. But when I first heard about it here in the States, I think it was in or in February, and I don't remember the dates.
That's all right. That's all right.
I in February, and I can remember thinking, So I started. It's funny. And Jennifer's in the same way. One of these thinkers. I think ahead, and I'm thinking, I might need extra stuff. So I can remember getting extra things. Like extra toilet paper, paper towels, some extra food, a little bit of stuff like that. But then in March. As a matter of fact, it was March 12th was my last day at the Y, because I filled out a paper saying I wanted my membership deferred.
Yep,
and they would defer it for 3 months. Yep. And I said the reason was the COVID. And 2 days later, the Y closed.
Yeah.
So the 13th here, it was Friday the 13th, as a matter of fact. I remember my grandson here, Eric, didn't have school that day. It was a conference day for teachers, and that's the weekend that they closed all the schools in the whole state. So, and I just had a real uncomfortable feeling going to the Y, because there was just so many people, and everything was just, we weren't sure about stuff, so that's why I didn't want to go to the Y. And I'm not going to return. New York State has announced, and guidelines so gyms can open.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go return to the Y until there's a vaccine. I just feel too uncomfortable going there.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I was a daily YMCA person
here
in Franklin.
I was practically too, not every day, but pretty much, and I love to swim.
Yep.
And they built this new Y. They just opened it last October, as a matter of fact. And they have a warm pool as well as a lap pool. Yes. And I prefer the warm because I have Raynaud's, so I can't tolerate the cold. So I would always go in the warm pool, and some days I would be the only one there swimming, and I would just do laps and do my water aerobic exercises in the warm pool. But I miss that the most from the Y.
It's very interesting because the time frame is very similar in terms of your awareness of things, except that I think you were a bit more savvy in February than most, because you started getting a few extra things.
Wow. And then Jennifer came to see me in June. Jennifer and Henry came to see me. School had just stopped. I had surgery on my finger for a trigger finger, and Rob didn't come because he was too involved with school closing. And then Henry and Jennifer came last week for a few days, and Rob didn't come then either because he's been on Zoom so much with school. Because he's part of the teacher
negotiation
group,
right?
And so he's been so involved with that. So she and Henry just came, and they just went back. Well, Monday of this week. Today's Saturday. They left here on Monday. So at least I've been able to see them a couple times, and we've been really careful.
How did you handle the visit?
Both visits. Well, when I had my surgery, I had to have a COVID test ahead of time, so I knew right away. I knew that I was okay. And then when they came to visit for the second time, I went and got a COVID test here. The testing here in New York State is so much better, I think, than any place else.
Flat out.
It really is, because you can go drive. You make an appointment, you drive through, and it's free. The only thing is, the results didn't come back as soon as I would have liked it for the second visit. The first visit for the surgery, the results came back within the same day. But the second visit, they came back at 3 days. But and Jennifer's and Henry, they've been so careful about not going anywhere before they came. So, and we wore a mask sometimes, but most of the time no. When she was here, but she does have her. She and Henry. I have 2 bedrooms here, a guest bedroom. So she and Henry had 1 bedroom, and they had their own bathroom.
So that makes
we
it better.
didn't share any bathroom and bedroom. So we were careful. But
so Joan, you live in a condo or could you just describe, your living circumstances?
Okay, I live in it's a senior
Okay.
community. There's a main it's all independent living. There's a main building with apartments. It's 2 stories. And then there's where I live, they call them villas, but they're like a patio home type situation. They're connected in sections, and mine has most of them have a 2-car garage, but mine has a 1-car garage. I only have 1 car, and I couldn't see any. All people do is use it to store stuff,
Right.
which I really don't. I know when I sold my house, we had garage, so we purged a lot. But I was thinking, it's not. Yes, it's some of it was sentimental, but it's just stuff, and people have so much stuff. So, but going back to where I'm living, it's beautiful here. It's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, living room, kitchen, eating area. There's my deck here I'm sitting on. There's a small front porch. A huge basement. Mine has a basement, not all of them. It's sort of on a little bit of a hill, graded a little bit. So mine has a basement, and it's gorgeous. I have all the boys, their toys are down. Some of their stuff is down there, and they go down there when they come to visit. In the wintertime and hang out.
Is it a place that has services for you, or do you have to do your grocery shopping? How does that work?
Oh, I don't. I do curbside pickup at Wegmans.
Okay.
For my groceries. As a matter of fact, I'm going tomorrow to pick up. I have gone to another grocery store, Tops, which is big here too, but I go at 6 in the morning. And I'm the only one in the store. That's what I found. That nobody goes grocery shopping at Tops at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I don't go very often. I might go once a month and get bigger stuff. And I go to Walgreens first thing when they open at 8. There's nobody else there except the workers, and I found. So I haven't. That's about the only places I go. Oh, I've been going to doctor's appointments, making up. I had some doctor's appointments scheduled for March, and they were all canceled and rescheduled. So I've been doing that, but
for the first
I'm not allowed
for the first 2 months,
I can't go.
Did you go to the curbside grocery pickup and the same thing at 8 o'clock at a Walgreens, or was Walgreens in the second phase of?
No, Walgreens was always open because they were considered essential. All the drugstores here were open. And Wegmans, the grocery stores were all open. There were a lot of doctors' offices that were not open. They were only seeing you if you had a problem. There were no dentist offices open. There are now. I have gone to the dentist twice.
Oh, that's the one thing I haven't done.
I felt very comfortable.
You did? Okay.
Yes, because they're all covered up.
Oh my God.
Because they're covered up like you go to the face shields and masks and gloves and the outfit they wear, and they're probably more uncomfortable seeing all these people than I was.
I bet.
I wasn't getting anything from them, so I felt very comfortable. I felt very comfortable going to the doctor too, and I told my kids the doctor's offices were probably the safest places to be, because they get tested frequently and they know how to handle, wear your gloves and your mask and
the protocols.
Protect your PPEs. They know how to do it. And that was before they had mask mandates here. I was not going into the grocery store, and then they mandated masks here in New York State fairly soon, quickly. So then things got a little more comfortable. That's when I went to Walgreens. I didn't go to the drugstores or anything.
You just did the curbside.
Yeah, originally. And my medications I get from Wegmans, I had gotten a 90-day supply just before March. So I was all set for medicines for a while too. So that worked out
What
well.
did you do with some of the friends you have where you live? How did that work?
Well, before I moved here to Rochester, my husband died in 2014 in May, and I moved here in October of 2018.
Okay.
And I retired from working in 2008, and I always met up with a group of retired teachers that I had worked, because I worked in the school system for 25 years, and 25 years as a school nurse. And so I know a lot of teachers, and we would meet once a week, every Tuesday, at the local restaurant diner in Middleport, which is a small town where near where I used to live. So, and then when I moved here, we didn't meet as often because it took me an hour and a half to drive from Rochester to, so we would meet more often for lunch, because in that way I wouldn't have to start out so early. And they're the ones that I miss the most. Next week we are meeting. I'm going to be driving that way to Medina. It's about an hour drive, hour 15 minutes, and we're going to meet at one of the girls' backyard and bring our lunch, and just be the four of us. So they're the ones I miss the most. The people here, I used to go over to the main building every day and have breakfast, and do different things with them. I would use there's a small fitness room over there with treadmills and bikes and a total gym thing. So I would use their equipment and go to classes over there. They had, painting, my watercolor painting classes were over there. And I miss them because I'm not allowed over. It's as of March. That started earlier. March 9th was the last day that I was allowed to go over to the main building. So it's been quite a while.
When you say you weren't allowed, is it everyone wasn't allowed or just certain age people?
Everyone that lives over here in the housing was not allowed in the main building. Visitors were not allowed in it. Family was not allowed in the main building. They just recently opened up the main building for family to visit, and like the last couple of weeks. So, and it's like
when Jennifer came in June,
it's not a nursing.
Where did she stay?
Yeah, she stayed with me because I'm considered not in the main building. I'm considered. My area is near the main building. I walk over there. I walk around every day, but there was no restrictions on my having visitors.
So you could have had visitors if you had wanted to. Okay.
Yes.
Because I have heard of people who couldn't. And but my son, who lives nearby, when they come to visit, we're outside in my garage. Okay.
They haven't been inside here since
really?
February. So we are outside all the time. And when Jennifer and Henry were here, Henry made a sign for the he says, "Welcome to our outdoor rec area." That's in my garage. So I backed my car out and I put some lawn chairs out there and fans so it's a little cooler, and we spent most of the time out in the garage.
Wow.
And outside.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you deal with the initial couple of months where really I'm sure you were in your house far more than you ever would have been normally? So how did that go?
Because it was cold. Yeah, it was very, I don't know, not too stressful, but just disappointing. Because I'm not one to sit still. You talk about ADHD. I consider myself to be an ADHD adult.
Okay.
I do not enjoy sitting and reading, or sitting and doing anything sitting for very long. That's why I like to go into the Y and walking, and I have a problem. I can't walk outside when it gets real cold
with my rain nuts.
Yeah, so I bought myself a treadmill, a small one. So I use that when the weather's not, when I can't walk. But I'm out since the weather has gotten better. I walk 4 or 5 miles a day, and I go out at different times. I'm out real early at 6 and at 9, and then at later afternoons, and then evenings. I'm just to get out of the house.
Well, how did you deal with that in the middle? Rochester, March and April and May, it's cold.
It's cold.
And
yes, it's cold. And I get in my car and just drive around.
So all right. Okay. What?
Well, I had to do that because one time I went out I was going to go pick up my groceries at Wegmans, for pickup delivery, and my car was dead. The battery was dead. It was like, oh crap. Yeah. So I called my son. Luckily, he's 10 minutes away. So he came and he went and got my groceries for me. And then he came and charged the battery. And it was because I hadn't driven my car for a while.
Yeah.
So now I drive it every other day at least. Just so it doesn't go dead again. It's like, oh.
Well, Joan,
but I was supposed to have my car inspected, so I had to wait a month for that. I did take that in to get inspected.
Did they let you wait?
I didn't feel
in the waiting room.
When I had it inspected, yes, and then I had to take it in for service, and they have a shuttle, and they brought me back, but I felt very comfortable there. They all had masks on, and they were really careful. Because they told me when I called, they said, you got to make sure you have a mask. And I said, yes. So they were very good about that.
Let me ask you this, Joan. You're a younger girl from me. You're 74, not 75. And I'm sure you've had lots of challenges in your life. Where does this rank in your compendium of life's challenges?
Probably number 2. My biggest challenge was when my husband, who was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and just dealing with that was the biggest challenge. And this ranks up there with that, though.
In what way?
Well, it's not as bad. The dealing with him with the kidney cancer, we spent a lot of time with medical appointments, and then, at the end it was just stressful. He was in hospice. It was just stressful, more emotional stress, I think, with that. And this COVID thing is more, I don't know, it's a little bit emotional, but not as much as dealing with my husband. But then when I think about this COVID thing, I'm thinking, okay, it's forced people to stay home, which really isn't that bad. Really, when you think about it, you're forced to stay home. Being home is really the safest place you could be. And people are starting to look at their lives and appreciate the more important things like family.
Did you notice yourself doing that? Because you really didn't have the option of vegging out with streaming things on TV or whatnot. You must have done a lot of thinking.
Yes. Yeah, a lot.
And did you?
I write down I have a calendar that's got big spaces that you can write on each day. So I've been writing I guess it's sort of like a journal, but I didn't want to have to write things down twice. I write it down in the journal and then write things down on the calendar. So I just use my calendar.
Okay.
It's just easier. You keep track of it, and it's funny. With this COVID thing, you keep track of things, little things more. At least I do, like the weather. stupid stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's not stupid. Where you went, what time of the day. You're looking with this COVID. You're looking at life a lot differently than before it was. I think people were too busy to act, going places and doing stuff and not maybe paying enough attention to what they really should be paying attention to.
Did you notice that yourself?
No, maybe not a whole lot, because I think I pay attention to a lot of things.
Did you get a sense that you were in this together with the people around you, or did you feel like they looked at it somewhat differently?
I think mostly the people around here where I'm living now looked at it the same way that I am. It seems like everybody is really careful. And there's only been a couple times that I've been out, like picking up, like when I did go to Walmart, and I'm planning on going again next week because they have senior hours. I can go at 6 in the morning on Tuesdays. There's only been a couple times when there hasn't been somebody wearing a mask, and it's really fun. You just sort of stay away from me. It's like, okay.
Yep.
But usually around here, I've seen everybody wears masks where I've been. So that's good. And my teacher friends that I meet up with, they're real careful too. They're the same age, and we all have our, medical problems, and, you think about stuff like that. So they're very careful.
Do you have a sense that there's a phase 1 of this? You know how COVID has phases,
right.
Technically speaking, in terms of reopening.
Right.
Do you feel emotionally that you had phases dealing with this also?
I don't know. I don't think so. Oh, maybe, when they talk about the phase 1, 2, we're in phase 4 right now. And maybe I would, when the phases come out, you sort of, you have to deal with it. You have to go by the rules, and, well, not rules, but guidelines. So maybe I was just following the guidelines that were put out there, and just to be careful.
Well, given that you're somebody that's on the move most of the time in non-COVID times.
Yes.
I would think the initial phase 1, which
shock,
really, that had to be the most challenging.
Yeah, I guess looking back, it's like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. Yeah, I probably did feel that way, but now I guess maybe I've gotten used to it. I don't know.
Well, you know what?
I've been doing a lot of cleaning, which sounds sort of dumb, but it's like, sorting. And my place is clean as it is, but it really doesn't really need cleaning. Just rearranging cupboards and sorting out. I went through my clothes, and some of my clothes was like, oh, I don't really need this stuff. And,
did you talk more on the phone?
When I moved here, I got
during that initial period.
Yes.
Okay.
I talked to Jennifer almost every day, but we used to talk a lot, anyways.
But it wasn't every day.
Maybe I think we probably, we talk more so now.
And with your grandchildren, the FaceTime and whatnot began to be a real important part.
I FaceTime more with Eric, the one that's here, the older one, than Henry. I don't know. Henry's not real into FaceTime. He doesn't call me on his own. Well, maybe he might now that he's got his own iPad. But Jennifer usually FaceTimes with me if they're out sitting on the deck.
Right.
So it's not as much. She calls me more, just talking.
Right. And what about your friends that you really miss the most? Did you do telephone calls with them?
No, we talk on the message each
Right.
other back and forth
Okay.
instead of calling
Right.
on the phone. It's just easier
Right.
that way.
But it's a form of communication. It's a form of being
Yes.
connected. And did you discover other ways of being connected?
Oh.
Did you write letters? Did you do notes? Did you?
No, I haven't. I do continue. I do send birthday cards to my family, but and in it, the ones that I don't see, maybe I write them a little note then, but nothing out of, no. I haven't. I'm not one to sit down and write a letter to anybody. Probably because it takes too long. I don't know.
Well, I think it's interesting because if I understand you correctly, that little calendar of yours has a little summary of each day.
Oh, yeah.
Did you learn something about yourself in this crisis number 2 in your rankings that surprised you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't really think so. I think things really haven't been a surprise to me. Maybe it's more of an inconvenience. I don't know. It's just,
well, like irritability level. Is that the same now as it was before COVID? The irritability level.
Oh, it's maybe a little bit worse, but I wouldn't call it bad.
Yeah. Did you learn something about people around you, even though they weren't physically there? Did they seem to show you traits that you hadn't seen before, or define themselves in ways that you took note of?
No, I don't know.
So
everybody seems to be about the same.
That's interesting. So
they've had enough of this, but when you think about it, that's a good question too. I'll have to think about that more after I talk to you. I really haven't seen a difference, any sort of a difference in the people that I know and communicate with.
Well, you know what? The reason I ask is that I think that we all have this COVID experience up in our pantheon of challenges in our lives, whatever our age. And
and everybody's handling it a little bit different.
And although it sounds in your circle, you have fewer people going off the reservation than, for example, I do.
Right.
My sense, I've said this to people, my sense is that I'm beginning to feel, as of phase 3 in Massachusetts, and P.S. phase 4 is vaccine time, so God knows when that comes.
Oh.
But I have really felt more like a leper on an island, and I can see the mainland, and I can see people moving around there. But there's no ferry service from where I am to the mainland.
No, I've never had that. I've never had that.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
It
You
is.
look out the window and you are seeing the same vista of everyone's in this together that you saw in March, whereas mine is very, very different. And it's interesting to me because I think I see more of this in the news and thought it was, more regional. And then I started experiencing it in my own life and I went, wow, this is not even regional. This is like...
It could be it could be, where you're located. I don't know. I am very pleased with how our governor has handled this
He got me
situation.
through. He got me through. Every day I
yes,
watched.
I did too, and there's something calming about the way
I
he
know
talks.
it. I found it too.
And
Yep.
he's honest, and he's just laid it out the way it is, and maybe I think maybe that has factored into that, how I feel.
Well, I
You feel
did
safe.
watch him every day that he gave his daily briefings, and miss those briefings. Although occasionally
Yes, I do
he
too.
pops in, and no one gets angry as effectively as your governor.
Yes,
Most of the people I know, when they get angry, we have a meltdown, and we don't make sense half the time. I do not want him
right.
angry at me, because he remembers everything, he articulates everything, he puts it in a
Yes,
historical
yes.
perspective. It's like, wowzer. I
wish he was running. I wish he was the one running
oh,
the show in Washington.
we can't go there, my dear. Really, my
No.
Zantac prescription will double.
Well, I'm a registered Republican, and I'm embarrassed to say it.
Well,
I really am.
You know what? I get
but
it.
I don't vote. I don't vote for the party. I vote for the person. And that's how I always felt.
Yep.
But,
well, I've actually, Charlie Baker, who's a Republican, I voted for him here in Massachusetts, and he doesn't have the charisma of Cuomo or the articulateness, and but he's been a solid actor in
yeah, that's what Jennifer says too. That's what she said.
So, well, what are you looking forward to, and what is your timeline? When do you sense that this, I presume the vaccine, as you say, that's going to give you the freedom to go back to the Y, for example.
Right.
Do you see that as coming in 2021, early, mid, late? What's your feeling on that?
I say March.
Well, from Joan's lips to God's ears, March 2021, a vaccine. And I want to thank Joan so much. I think she gave me much more than I gave to her. And I'm specifically thinking about the sense she has still in August 2020 of being in this together with her surrounding folks in Rochester, New York. She had it in April and she has it in August. And it really points out to me what I feel I don't have in August 2020 that I had in April and May. And that was my connected universe being in the same spot. I now feel more and more like my interviews with people are my way of staying connected to this reality, because the people around me, by and large, are simply not at the same place they were in April and May, and have indeed moved on in their lives by broadening their lives out to include many more activities that they are, quote, safe in their minds. And in my mind, not so much. So it's very interesting to me to take Joan's concept of maybe March 2001 being the vaccine, that would then enable her to return to her pre-COVID life in some way, namely being able to go to the Y and being able to go and visit her friends that she misses so much and her family. It's just very interesting to me to be thinking about what if that vaccine came at this point in time? Would my life after the vaccine be different? Would I still feel as close to some people that I felt close to before COVID? Or in the course of this, me feeling like a leper on the colony, and some of those who I felt connected with being on the mainland now, is that going to impact? And these are questions only time will tell, but I must say it's something I hadn't really considered in April or May, that this may alter relationships in a very profound way. And not because they personally did something to me, but because their lives shape-shifted in a way that mine did not. And the more I experience this separateness, the more impact I think it might have. But beyond that, I can't go, so I won't go. But this is one of the reasons I find these interviews so valuable, because it keeps me connected to people in my virtual living room. Someone does indeed answer. Someone does indeed press the doorbell, and I go, "Thank you, Jesus. Come on in." So thank you, Jesus, Joan. And you gave me lots to think about, and I wish you well. And I learned something. And it's always a good day for me when I learn something. So over and out for today, Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. And thanks again to Jeff Hale for creating my lovely doorbell.